Bitcoin plummeting multiple percent yesterday. Its single largest daily dump in nearly 2 months. The bulls and bears alike are left wondering, is that it? Or is it in fact not it? Let's just say, this couldn't be any bigger if you tried. After yesterday's extremely medium-sized dump, Bitcoin is now trading in the lower range of this nearly 4-month-long sideways trading range that we've been in. But is this dump now completely over, potentially forming the final shoulder of a giga inverse head and shoulder explosion pattern that will take us to infinity and beyond? Or in fact, is something even bigger actually happening? So if you understand that the biggest dumps produce the biggest pumps, hit that like, hit that subscribe, get sent up to BINGX or BINGX below if you want my Bitcoin or altcoins. And without any further ado, let's absolutely dump on in. Where we see Bitcoin right now, ever since entering this range first back at the end of February 2024 this year, here we are 118 days later. Basically, pretty much 4 months later, we're still trading in between $58,000 and $74,000 range, in that range where most of the time we were kind of sitting right at about 60,000. Currently, we're right at about 60,000, but now we're at the lower range of this giga dumpisode, right? If you would draw this range, and this is the middle, now we're in the lower range as of the last few days. And yesterday's dump was the biggest dump we've seen actually on these charts since, well, we have to go back basically to April 30th and May 1st, when we went from about 64,000 to about 56,000, about an $8,000 move over 2 days. We had a 2-day dump as well. This was about a $6,000 move over 2 days. And, the big question now is this dump over or is it just getting started? Well, we look at a chart. Clearly, this pattern, which is a pattern most people, I think, in the space have been following, this inverse head and shoulders, it's still intact. In fact, this kind of downward sloping neckline kind of matches up pretty well with a higher left shoulder, the head, and then a slightly lower right shoulder. As long as this right shoulder doesn't go below the head, it's basically still intact. And for that to happen, we would need Bitcoin to go below 57,000. Yesterday, we went as low as about 58, 59 or something. We got within about $1,000 or $2,000 pretty much of invalidating this. So that's big. However, as I just said, we have not invalidated it. It's still pretty big. And even bigger than that, I want to talk about some other things on these charts. But first, let's actually completely dump on into this. Cred on Twitter said that, or on X, if this is the Bitcoin bottom, I'm absolutely going to miss it. What he basically says here, I'm not going to read it word for word, is that, and this is a sentiment that I see and I agree with, it makes sense, but usually what he says is on the second breakdown, after we go to a level that it recently bounced at, but then we kind of like fail to make any crazy highs and come right back down to it. Usually he's saying that this second breakdown is not a trap, and means that it's actually the beginning of a breakdown. So what he's saying here is that he's not shorting, but he's also not buying. So basically he's saying he's very indecisive, right? He basically saying he doesn't know. And then I guess he makes a joke that he'll just do scams to make money if he doesn't make money or something. But that's kind of like a sentiment I think is pretty strongly agreed upon right now, is that, if we go to this chart that I just showed, we failed to break down here back at the beginning of May, but now we've come back down to it after kind of just not putting in a higher high from these highs originally back in April. So, but again, keep in mind, that's exactly how an inverse head and shoulders pattern forms. So I mean, every time an inverse head and shoulders pattern forms, basically you're dealing with the same conundrum. You're dealing with the same hard thing to wrap your head around, because basically, you look at this, you would think, okay, low, this is another low. This could very easily, if it only comes down 1,000 or 2,000 more, then maybe we'll have a big dump, right? And that's what basically he's saying, is that he's concerned that will happen. He's saying it's probably not going to be a trap where we go back up. However, again, if a lot of people have that same opinion and that's the consensus, then that makes it more likely that actually, this inverse head and shoulders will complete and start going up. Now, also, you see on the daily chart, we actually have just had a bearish cross, or we're actually having a bearish cross on the daily right now after getting a bullish cross that basically did nothing back about exactly a month ago on May 24th. So a month ago, we had a bullish cross that quite literally Bitcoin basically just traded sideways for weeks after getting, and then ultimately, right, we'd be getting dumped on. Now we're getting this bearish cross, which, I mean, again, let's be honest, I guess doesn't really mean too much. You know, if bullish crosses aren't going to mean much, we can't put too much into bearish crosses either on the daily chart at this moment, as long as we're trading this heavily sideways. And as well, a lot of times with bearish crosses, they actually mark the bottoms, and sometimes with bullish crosses, they do as well. This one didn't really mark anything. It kind of just literally trade sideways, tried to go a little higher, and then after a couple weeks, we started dumping again. So, but that is kind of like the paradox of this, is that this can look very bearish to people because, oh, we're testing these lows, but also that's exactly how an inverse head and pattern, an inverse head and shoulders pattern has to form. So it's either basically, to sum it up, this is either mega bearish or mega bullish, and there's not really any in between. And we've been trading sideways, as I just said, for about 4 months. So I personally just think we're not going to be seeing much sideways much longer. If we look at the Bollinger Bands as well, they have started expanding after so much contraction because we're falling below this. Now, this is on a daily chart. It's quite literally only been about 1 day since we've moved below this. Bitcoin could very easily pop back into this range, and we could just continue trading sideways for a couple more weeks. But we do have to be very aware of the possibility of what I just said, where we're just right on top of this head set back at the very beginning of May this year. So, right, he's indecisive. I want to say this as well. Bitcoin bull market corrections are extremely common. Historically, we've had 30 to 40% plus corrections in bull markets. So far, the largest correction we've seen during this bull market is about 24% almost. This current one is not even 20% yet. So again, this pullback still it's not even that crazy. It's completely ordinary, actually. And I just like the way he mapped this out, Vivek on X as well, kind of just taking snapshots of each part of each cycle. And this cycle, again, we have so much time left, but also I guess one of the bad sides about the fact that we have so much time left technically of this pump is that we could still spend a lot of time trading sideways and maybe even down more, because there's still so much time. All of this time in this section here, if this is the rest of the bullish phase, all of this time does not need to be straight up. It could be kind of boring. Just like, I mean, if we look back in 2020, there was a lot of boring. Even in 2016 and 2012, there's a lot of boring, even though those biggest pumps are in those phases. I mean, look at all this time. If we have all this time left, heck, half of this time could still be boring, sideways, even some dumpy. But the expectation is that at least at some point there will be a massive pump that is bigger than any other phase of this bull market. We also see that the Bitcoin halving, the last Bitcoin halving 4 years ago, ranged for about 150 days between 9 and 11,000 before having a massive breakout. Currently, we're only 60 days after the halving, and people are obviously very depressed. Sentiment is really bad, but it's basically just to illustrate still that, you know, we could still have some boring price action, some sideways trading for a couple of more months, worst case scenario, before we actually see some sort of really big pop. So while I'm extremely invested, extremely optimistic on this market, there's absolutely no reason to think that we have to immediately go up, you know, next week. There is still so much time left that, you know, I'll just say it. I'll just say the quiet part out loud. We could still see weeks and weeks of still more boringness, which is, again, another reason why I'm a little tuned out, not spending every day making a video. I honestly don't know how people are making videos every day right now. It's so boring. Nothing is happening. I'm pretty much completely invested in this market. I love this market in so many ways. I absolutely, you know, one of my favorite things in life is basically crypto stuff. It's amazing. I like it a lot. But I'm absolutely not going to spend every single day or 6 hours a day when the market is going sideways focusing on it, because I like other things as well. And I think that's honestly, probably the best advice you'll get in a crypto video this week is, like, you know, make sure you're doing other things with your life as well and enjoying other parts of your life. But yeah, with that being said, I mean, still, this is such sideways. It's okay seeing a bounce today. I mean, the stock market as well has been doing so well over the last few weeks. I mean, look at this chart. Ever since April 22nd, the stock market has been putting in new all-time highs almost every week. And Bitcoin has not really been following, and I think that's also grating on people a little bit, because they're wondering, what's going on. But as I've said many times before, cementing support above these previous all-time highs is the most important thing Bitcoin could be doing right now. It's quite literally the most bullish thing Bitcoin could be doing right now. But I will be the first to admit, it is also an extremely boring process. I remember it back 4 years ago doing the same thing. It was a little bit different because that really boring consolidation was actually significantly below the all-time highs for, as I just said, about 150 days after the last halving it took. This time, the consolidation is right on the all-time highs, which again, I personally think is even more bullish. Okay, I think this is a better setup. I think this is going to be a better bull market than the 2020 bull market. I think that truly we have Bitcoin spot ETFs. We have all these things that right now don't seem to be doing too much to help the price, and they're quite honestly not. But given the right circumstance and the right timing, they absolutely have the ability to give this market the boost that it has never had before. That is one thing about this market that I think I think the best thing I think that I have a grasp on in this market is timing. Timing is everything. You can sit in this market for 3 years and make, okay money, or, maybe, decent or even no money. And then all of those gains, all of those opportunities, all of that can boil down to quite literally a few weeks and a few months. And you need to make sure you're paying attention in those short times. Timing is quite literally everything in this market. There will be a time where you feel like this market is never going to come down. There will be a time when you feel like you have way more money than you probably have. What I'm referring to is unrealized gains, right? Let's say in 3 months from now, Bitcoin's at 200,000. Your favorite altcoin is 30x higher than it currently is. You will feel like you have so much money. And on paper, you might. But until you actually take those profits, which a lot of people don't, you actually don't have that money. A lot of people end up round tripping it. And all I'm saying is that it's very common for people to wait 2, 3, 4 years, make a ton of money on, unrealized gains, and then not take any profit and lose all of it. In fact, that's more common than any other trading strategy is making a lot of money and losing it all, right? Crypto is kind of even known for that. So basically my point is stay alert, but also give yourself a break to enjoy your life, right? Everyone's going to die someday. Don't literally just... That's why I can't just make these videos every single day right now, because, it's a waste of time, to be honest. But going back to this head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders here, really, we want to see Bitcoin actually the entire new month of July, which is starting soon. Basically, for this to really have a realistic possibility of happening, we want to see Bitcoin absolutely this entire month of July start to trend upwards more so. Start to trend upwards. And it could happen very fast, right? We could even see it the first 2 weeks or something of July, where maybe we have a very quick recovery and we end up breaking. I mean, this is the big part here. We have a very clear neckline now. We have a very clear neckline. And it's basically, it's downward sloping, but it's basically 74,000 to, the 71 as time goes on, maybe even $70,000 level. Right around 70,000. Once we concretely break above 71, I mean, 70 is pretty big. It's this giant psychological even support. The next time we're actually breaking above 70,000 US dollars, it is extremely likely that is the beginning of a true breakout. Okay, that's the beginning of a true breakout. But we still need a couple thousand, we need almost $10,000 at the time of recording for Bitcoin to climb first, before then we can say, wow, this is actually maybe, we're about to potentially complete a massively bullish macro pattern breakout that's at this point already 4 months long. It's a long pattern, right? That has a lot of potential to go a lot higher. The longer you consolidate, the longer you build that pressure, the more explosive the moves can get. And get set up to FEMEX or BINGX below if you want Bitcoin or altcoins. Without further ado,